The esports industry is dying, or at least in the way that we've seen it in our recent history. I mean, our VCT champions tell their players that they need to take a pay cut. Everyone but TSM, our ALGS champions, seem to be going through it this offseason, and questions surround the RLCS after big personnel cuts at Epic Games. But even with all of that, I do still believe that the best days of esports are yet to come. So let's go ahead and get down and do what it do. But before we do, if you enjoy weekly esports updates across multiple titles, remember every like, comment, and share helps this channel more than I could ever explain. And hitting that sub button and turning those notifications on, make sure that you're staying up to date with the esports world. But this past year has truly shown us just how great esports can be. I mean, we've had great storylines across multiple titles. TSM solidifying their legacy in Apex Legends, capping off a phenomenal season with back-to-back-to-back wins in order to win the Match Point Championship. Evil Geniuses has a comeback for the ages with the emergence of Demon 1 and Potter, the first woman to win a major esports championship, calling the shots. And Team Vitality completes the impossible in RLCS, a perfect split, capping off an undefeated regional split by hoisting the trophy at the season-ending championship. And while this past year has shown us how great esports can be, it has also shown us just how low it can go. League of Legends Challenger Circuit rosters getting dropped after franchises are told they are not required to field Challenger squads, even including last year's champions. Evil Geniuses players are still in contract jail despite there being a players association after being told they would be forced to take a pay cut. Which is kind of crazy to think about, that MVP Demon 1 could suffer a similar fate that we saw Ye suffer after his MVP season. Not good for business if we're being perfectly honest. We've seen a slew of Tier 1 orgs pulling out of the ALGS due to a lack of financial support, and it's not like this is new. It's about a year ago that 17 or 18 orgs signed a petition saying that they would leave if they didn't get the support, and most of them have stuck to that. Heck, even a consistent esports league like the Overwatch League is closing its operations, at least in the way that we know it. And we're seeing a lot of organizations scaling back their esports operation, which makes sense with seeing some of their counterparts needing to close their doors completely over the course of this last year. TSM has pretty well halted their esports division, pulling out of just about everything but ALGS, and there have been reports that most teams are cutting back their funding in the VCT, particularly in the North American region. And the biggest reason we're seeing a lot of orgs leaving the ALGS is due to a lack of financial support from EA. And all of these things combined make it harder for storylines to develop. I mean, between rotating rosters, orgs moving in and out of esports, and even with all of this and the apparent downturn in the industry, we've also seen a lot of esports expanding their off seasons, giving us more events. More events equals more exposure, which hopefully leads to more potential money and storylines, right? So where do we go from here? How do we get to the other side of things, which shows so much promise? I think it really all starts with reformatting the business and how it's done in the esports world. I mean, no more bidding wars for the top players, although I think that became more exacerbated during the COVID bubble, which has recently popped, but we even saw it to an extent before that. What we need to see is an end to the overspending from your traditional big or your T1 orgs, right? Hoping that one of their roster hits in order to try and recoup their expenses across the board. We need to see more orgs really try and build this thing from the ground up, picking up maybe a couple of players and rosters, kind of thinking about what we've seen lately from the likes of KCP, Moist, Blackhand. I mean, even when we think about Carmine Corp, they've recently shown that building an org from the ground up is possible. They've only been around for about 3 years, and the Blue Wall is one of the, if not the biggest name in Europe. They recently held their annual Carmine Corp versus World show match, where they were able to pack the arena to the brim with their fans. And we've recently even heard that they're going to be building their own esports arena, which looks like it's going to be absolutely lit. And let me say this again, they've only been around for about 3 years. They started in 2020, proving that building something special is possible. It's just going to take a lot of work. So how about for orgs that have already been around and didn't exactly get the start that they were looking for? I wouldn't be surprised to see if we got more orgs merging, kind of like we've seen recently, whether it be a split of a roster the way that we're seeing Moist and Shopify Rebellion doing in the VCT Challenger circuit, or even an all-together merging like the recent announcement of G2 and version 1. But the biggest area of opportunity for all esports organizations is capitalizing more on their content. We've often seen that when it comes to cutting personnel and cutting expenses, it seems like the content team is always the first to go. But if there's something that we can learn from the juggernauts in the industries, the Optic, the TSMs, it's that we shouldn't play with funny money. Got him. But in seriousness, it's the content, right? I mean, Hex and Optic, they've built a whole separate platform outside the gaming space, which allows them to strengthen that connection with their fans. So how do we get to that point? Well, I think it really all starts with normalizing esports. And I'm not just talking about amongst gamers, although I do think that there is definitely still some room for improvement there. But how can we bridge that gap to get esports broadcasts approached the same way as traditional sports broadcasts, which in turn would just mean more partners, more views, and more revenue? I mean, this past season, we saw the NBA 2K League on NBA TV, as well as some local broadcasts. And while we can definitely say that this is probably more due to the fact that they're affiliated with the NBA, some of us are old enough to remember the Halo Pro Circuit games being played on ESPN for Saturday night, so it's not like it hasn't been done before. We also need to see collegiate and high school esports becoming more accepted. I mean, this would just increase the potential aspiring pro players pools, which should in turn just drive up the quality of the overall product. As someone who does cast some high school esports through an organization in Pennsylvania, I can tell you as someone who lives here in good old Snacktown, PA, that there are plenty of schools around me that aren't participating. And while one could make the argument that collegiate esports have been going on for a while now, most notably thinking of Northwood, who has been able to build a powerhouse across multiple titles, we need to start seeing it normalized at the bigger or Division I schools and see it play out in similar fashion. I mean, we've started to see this move forward a little bit this year with the big this season, and hopefully we see more of your traditional sport conferences following suit as well. And while there are a lot of concerns about the lay of the land when it comes to esports, there's also a lot to get excited about as we get ready to move into 2024, but only time will tell if we see the shift within the industry that is truly needed. Unfortunately, we probably aren't going to be seeing a spike in viewership and money like we did during the COVID era, but esports does seem to be on the incline as far as acceptance goes amongst the average person, but it only seems to be just scratching the surface. So what can you do to help push the envelope? Watch, comment, like, share, and not just on this video right here, although you'd definitely be helping your boy out if you did, but make sure you're watching your favorite esports events. Be active in the discussions online and comments and support your favorite orgs. I'm not saying you need to pay $100 for a hoodie, but if that's your thing, feel free. But consume content, help create and drive the fandoms that we see when it comes to your traditional sports. And by the time that we hit 2030, something tells me that while the landscape might look a lot different, we'll be in a much better place. Remember that it's always going to be darkest right before the dawn, but let me know what you think down in those comments below. Can esports survive the apparent recession that seems to be plaguing the industry? What do you think can help the esports industry bounce back? Get involved in those comments down below. Jump into that Discord down in the description as well. We do have open discussions about things just like this. And so we do catch y'all back over here for the next one, man. Don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love hard, all right, y'all? It's your boy Q, signing out.